Fair enough. Right, let's go to the second match of the weekend, which had Brian's Scotland side coming up against Will's Wallabies. Firstly, before we get into the match, Will, your reaction to Finn Russell being dropped from the squad?
Man, I don't understand it. I love him as a player. I would have loved to have played with him. He reminds me a lot of Quaid. You know, they're both got incredible skill sets. They're silky movers around the field. They have a great sense of anticipation, which I think all great players have. And he's just someone who creates something from nothing. He makes something out of nothing, and he has that ability where you throw him the ball, something's going to happen. And I personally don't understand it. Maybe there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes that we don't get, but I love him as a player. I would have loved to have had the opportunity to play with someone like him.
I mean, in your career, Will, have you ever, talking about Quaid or any other sort of mercurial number 10s where that maybe the coaches haven't got on as well with, but from the perspective of a player, you're like, we need him on the field?
Well, mate, Quaid, when we played the British and Irish Lions in 2013, he was by far and away the best 10 in the country. But he had, at that time, had a kind of fractured relationship with Robbie Deans. And so Robbie obviously thought it was, in his mind, making the right decision by putting the team first to eliminate that distraction. He didn't pick him and put James O'Connor at 10 for us. And at that time, James has obviously blossomed into a 10 now, but at that time he was a winner. And he put him in at 10 to be able to play. And it's the one thing that I look back on in my career that I really regret is that series, because having Quaid in that team would have made a huge difference to the outcome. I think. Well, at that time he was, a world-class 10. And yeah, he didn't get picked again because of that sort of fractured relationship at that time with Robbie.
Can we see the other side a little bit? If you're Robbie Deans or if you're Gregor Townsend, or is it from a player's perspective? Is it just simply he's our best 10? Get him on the fucking field.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest frustration for everyone was with what Tooney came up with to say that it was his form and his consistency. I think it was, and he's been playing bloody well. I think that's what annoyed people the most, and the fact that which you've got to completely. I spoke about it last week. The whole thing with Ross Thompson only playing 20 minutes, but it's got nothing to do with Ross Thompson. He could play because he was out. He was inside the Scotland window. This week will be a bit different. There'll be a lot of changes coming in because all the foreign players or we say overseas people that play down in England can actually play in this game. So there'll be a lot of changes there. But I think that's what got people's backs up the most, wasn't it? Was the excuses around why Finn wasn't picked.
You can understand from a coach's perspective wanting to put the team's culture and team environment first.
Yeah.
So I certainly get that side of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, as a player, when in that moment, thinking to myself, like, we need this guy, he's going to make, particularly because the last game I think the Lions played before they played us was the Queensland Reds at Ballymore. And Quaid absolutely played the house down. And so having watched that and knowing that we weren't going to be able to have that in our side was pretty tough to take. And like I said, looking back on it now, it's still one of those things that I regret in my footy career.
I think the likes of Blair King right? We'll get on to it. I think he played well. I thought he had a good game at 10. Other than that kick at the end, which everyone's, tearing into him for. But listen, the problem is the guy doesn't kick for his club. I think he's third on the list for his club. So you're putting him under a bit of pressure there. But if you look at what's happening, I reckon you've got him stepping up at 10. He needs to get some more game time at 10. You've got Six Nations World Cup coming up. I reckon the view is here. He, as brutal as it sounds, he's the perfect man to have on the bench because he's played at 15. He's a bloody good winger. And now he's covering 10. So you get a little bit more experience at 10, international-wise. Come a World Cup, you've got someone on the bench. You can go a 6-2 split. It covers every position. Finn slots back in. I mean, with Darcy Graham and Duhan van der Merwe on the wings, he's not really going to get a look in there. Listen, you'll see Finn back in pretty soon. I know that for sure. Like, come Six Nations, I reckon you're going to see him back in. I just hope Finn doesn't take the huff and piss off to Japan, and then it's too late.
We'll take him. Quaid's out at the moment, so he can come join Kintetsu for a season.
There you have it.
And Will gets the 15% agent's fee. Beautiful.